Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome to another episode of Monte's Gems. I guess we stopped counting, so I'm not really sure what episode this is. Do you know off the top of your head?
I think it's either 33 or 34.
Okay. Wow, coming up on a year.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Getting close.
we've done it, man.
Mm-hmm.
All it took was just one. We started. We've missed a few weeks with vacations and just life.
Yeah.
I think most podcasts, what they'll do is they'll try to record a number of episodes in one day, so they have it expanded out. Where
Mm-hmm.
we've just kind of forced ourselves each week to set aside that time on Fridays to show up, and I guess I like that because it's having that structure, and just each Friday
Mm-hmm.
I have it planned into my schedule to be able to know that's when the podcast is, and it's I don't know, it's made it somewhat easy for me. Now,
Yeah.
maybe if I had kids and stuff like that, it would not be super easy and we'd have to go the other way and record. But I think it would be really difficult to record episode after
Yeah.
episode after episode in one day and just talk like that. That
Yeah.
seems really difficult. Maybe if you had guests, you could do like a whole week and just talk to new people. But ugh, I don't know if I'd like that.
Yeah. Doing that many back to back, it seems like it would get very. I don't know. It wouldn't stay very fresh if you're doing them all back to back like that.
Yeah, at least for me, my personality, it seems like it would get very monotonous. I don't know if I'd be very engaged in the conversations. I don't know if I'd be able to ask very deep questions because I'd be thinking about previous conversations. Because that's one of the things I enjoy about conversations is that you share, you ask questions, you go through this journey of experiencing
Mm-hmm.
someone else's life, and being able to hear what their thoughts are, and I guess being able to consume that, soak it in, and then let it sit. And then after a conversation, continuing to think about the things that were said. And if you're on to the next podcast, it'd be like, oh, that'd be difficult for me to not
Yeah.
be thinking about what was going on all the way over there, and being able to be present in the current conversation.
Yeah. Definitely. And I think that
So
not you're talking about like pre-recording them and just kind of sometimes just having a uh, if we were to miss, just having an episode ready. I don't know. I think I like the way that we do it because it doesn't really give us an option to take that take that excuse as to not do it, I guess. I mean, there are some weeks that obviously we haven't, but I feel like the barrier to miss an episode is a lot higher than it would be if we had episodes pre-recorded. We just say, "Oh, we'll just throw one out that we already have."
it is, but the thought of doing it every week and then having a week where there's other stuff to do, I don't feel as much pressure to be like, okay, well, we got to fit it in this day or that day. And that's one thing that's nice because I think when it comes to social media and trying to keep up with the algorithm and trying to always have fresh content that people are consuming
Mm.
to stay relevant, to stay at the top of the charts, and to continue to get followers, doesn't really work very well if you're not consistent. And so for us, if it's, maybe missing a week or shooting an episode on a Tuesday or this and that, and the only issue I have with that is that stress and that buildup, I think, would make it less enjoyable to do. And I wouldn't look forward to doing it as much because it would
Right.
seem more like a chore or a job that it's like, I got to go get this done instead of I got to go enjoy this episode. And that's what
Hmm.
I look forward to coming to it versus be like, okay, I got to get this done. And then as soon as I get this done, then we can go out to eat, or then I can go do this and then I can do that. And I'm not rushing through it or uh, I guess feeling pressured.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And
Definitely.
I think that's how it is with anything in life, whether it's a job or geez, I don't know, you name it, going out to dinner. Like if something is ever a hassle or it feels like there's guilt that you have to go to it, or
Mm-hmm.
you just feel pressured to do it. It's like how is that enjoyable, and how do you actually be present and enjoy the moments of what it is you're doing when you're really just succumbing to all this other pressure or the expectations of what others have set forth.
Yeah. the whole idea of mindset is everything. And when you go into something saying you don't want to be there or you don't want to do it, it doesn't really matter if you're having fun or not, or if you normally would have, you're just not going to have a good time because you already set that prerequisite.
Yeah, and that's interesting. I think whenever we're going like on a trip or going to do something, I previously would create expectations of what I expected it to be. And then if I got there and they weren't that, or like, let's say you go to Disney World, right? And it's like, oh, we're going to get to ride the rides. It's going to be so much fun. And then you go there and you see how packed it is. It's like, ah,
Mm-hmm.
dude. And the ride shut down. Well, how long is the wait now? And
Mm-hmm.
180 minutes. What the heck?
Mm-hmm.
And you just expect to, in your mind, all you're thinking about are getting to enjoy all these rides, but you don't
Mm-hmm.
think about all the time that is spent waiting to be able to get and enjoy all these rides. And so I think if you're not enjoying that time spent sitting in the rides or on that journey to be able
Yeah.
to get to the ride, then it's not going to be an enjoyable trip. Or
Yeah, for
maybe it
sure.
starts raining or something like that, or it gets really hot, or you realize how expensive the food is, or how expensive the tickets are, and it's so busy where it's like I can only pick 3 rides out of all 9 hours. We're only gonna get to ride 3.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, you better make sure that you're just enjoying the other time there, and
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because that setting those expectations and the expectations not delivering is, yeah, just kind of ruins the rest of it. Even
right.
even from the get go.
Or I can just think of me how particular I am. So like, let's say I went to like a Theo Von uh, comedy event or like a Jordan Peterson. Like my expectation would be like, hopefully I'll be able to ask Jordan a question, and
Mm,
then we're going to interact and we're going to have this conversation and we're going to
mm,
talk back and forth, and I'm going to get to like hear all of his thoughts, and he's going to connect with me, and then we're going to become friends. Like, dude, like that, like I love to dream, and so
yeah.
when I think of it, like that's what I'm thinking. I'm going to go there, and there's going to be other people that are just like me, and they're going to want to talk about all these interesting things, and then we're going to like be best bros forever.
Hmm.
And it's just like I have all these expectations because it's like it sounds fun and it sounds enjoyable, but once
Right.
I create all that, it's just like, oh, well, how was it? It's like, yeah, it sucked. I don't like
Yeah. Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. Having that having that expectation is, I don't know. Just going into something with no expectation and just kind of feeling it out is always the best way because I don't know. You go in having those expectations and it's like kind of like you were saying, like you plan it out. And if that doesn't happen, then I don't know. You just are disappointed almost or something, it seems.
And by the way, I do that with just about everything in
Yeah,
life.
yeah,
Just so like I think so deeply
yeah.
about a single thing that I already have a plan. It's like, okay, well, if this happens, I could go there and I could do this and I can do this. And then it's, yeah. So it's just like, I have a very hard time with just sitting back, relaxing. And so that's one of the reasons I've made it a huge priority in my life and my yearly goals is to laugh, is so that I just can try to be around people that cause laughter, that create laughter. Because if that's my main expectation, then I can really try hard to do that in
Hmm.
some way or another. Like,
Yeah, that makes sense. You can find laughter in almost anything and just surround yourself with
yeah,
people that are like minded and finding that laughter and everything and just having a good time. And it's definitely possible.
yeah. Well, people who are positive, who are looking at the good in life,
Hmm.
if they have that same desire to laugh or to have
Yeah,
fun,
yeah, definitely.
and one of the interesting things we talked about, going to these events or not having expectations. There's so many people where you're asking them like who their favorite sports team is, and they'll be like, "Oh, it's this." It's like, why is it? Why is it the Cincinnati Reds? Like, you're from Chicago, you're from Detroit. It's like, well, my very first Major League Baseball game, I went there, and the Cincinnati Reds player, blah blah blah, hit a ball, and I got it.
Hmm.
Like, you realize how many people there are like that their first game that they went to, or they went to a specific game and they got some piece of memorabilia and they've stayed a fan forever because of that one little experience. Now, maybe they had expectations, maybe they didn't,
Mm-hmm.
but that cool experience that I dream of happening,
Mm-hmm.
with so many different things is what can really create some very intimate moments that are very, very special for people, for them to even, be such huge fans, I guess, fanatics.
Yeah. And I mean, especially if you go to a sporting event, having those expectations, it's not completely out of the realm of reality because I mean, it happens. Foul balls happen every single game. Home runs happen a lot of games. It's not an unrealistic expectation that somebody is going to catch a foul ball or a home run ball
That
or something.
somebody is right, but
Yeah. Yeah.
but an unrealistic expectation that I'm going to catch a foul ball. Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
Well, what do you think the odds are on that?
I don't I'm just saying it's not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, considering there's so many foul balls hit every game, I don't know how many foul balls are hit, but I mean, somebody is going to be getting those foul balls.
Have you ever caught a foul ball at a game?
I haven't went to very many games,
Yeah. Okay.
but I can tell you one thing, every game that I have went to, somebody has caught a foul ball.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Just like somebody's eating a hot dog too.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And you can make sure that you eat a hot dog at a game if you go there with that attitude.
Yeah, that's true. That's a pretty easy feat to achieve, eating a hot dog.
So if every game I go to, I say that I'm going to drink a beer and eat a hot dog, like you can guarantee that. So maybe those are better expectations.
Maybe.
Now, if you go there saying I'm going to have the best beer I've ever had and eat the best hot dog I've ever had, then
Yeah.
you're probably going to be very disappointed. But
Yeah, unless you've never had a hot dog or a beer, then maybe they will be the best.
or maybe they won't be very appetizing to you.
Yeah. Well, if you've never had one, they'd be the best anyways. Because you've never had a
Unless
hot
you're
dog.
vegan.
I mean, it would still be the best hot dog you've ever had. It may be the worst hot dog you've ever had at the same time, but it's the only hot dog you've ever had. So therefore,
Okay, I
it's the
see.
best hot dog you've ever had.
All right, you win. So this week, our episode idea was we talk about socioeconomic status and how one advances to that next level, or even just, I guess, talking about it and understanding it. So I think about finances quite a bit. I think about generating wealth and success. It's something that's a big goal in my life, whether it's mentally or physically. And so I guess I kind of wanted to get an idea of, how much you think about something like this. And when it comes to maybe financial goals in your life, or how you find life purpose in terms of things and products or finances, like how do you perceive your maybe future goals, and how you work towards those in the present?
I kind of try to, I don't know. I'm very I'm very in the camp of not not putting too much importance on money, not in the sense of not having money. Obviously, money will give you the things that you need, such as food and housing and a vehicle to get around and stuff like that. And obviously covering those bases, but I'm not I'm not somebody who's going to obsess over money and kind of try to make it my life goal because I feel like I don't know, that's not really my purpose. I mean,
All right. And then when you start thinking about maybe life goals, like usually they come in the form of things, maybe vacations, vehicles, homes. I would say those are probably the 4 or 5 big ones. Like, so in terms of a vehicle, are you particular on a vehicle that you drive? Do you have any dream vehicles that you want to own at some point in time?
I wouldn't say it's like a dream vehicle or anything like that. I like a Dodge Hellcat. I like Hellcats.
A Hellcat?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I never knew that.
Yeah.
Have you ever drove one?
No.
How do you know that you like them?
I don't know. I like the look of them. I like the sound of them. I I like how a Dodge Challenger Hellcat, not a Charger. I don't really like the Chargers, but I don't know. Just
Okay.
that the Challenger body shape and how they sound, and I don't know. I like I like the look of them too.
Is there a specific color that you would like to have?
Um, I've seen I've seen one time that was probably my favorite one that I've ever seen. It was like a I don't really know how to describe it. It was a shade of red. It was like a burnt red slash blackish. I don't know. I don't really know the how to describe it,
Uh,
but it's like a red-ish.
like a maroon?
Not really. I don't really know how to
Okay.
describe it.
That's interesting. Okay.
It's
I've never really.
kind of like a midnight purple, but for red, if that makes
Okay.
sense.
No, interesting. And then what about in terms of things? Are there any dream things that you have that you would like to have obtained in your life?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So, like jet skis, a hot tub, a swimming pool,
No,
nothing like that.
I
Okay.
don't think. No, I don't think I was. It's like a goal for me to have this in life.
What about vacations? Are there any places that you just really want to go see?
I
If
think
you're on your list?
I think probably my biggest one would be Egypt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why would you like to go there?
I don't know. I just think the pyramids are super cool, and I think they would be cool to see in person, and just kind of the culture surrounding them. Not necessarily like the people who are just trying to sell the tourists things, but like the people that actually live there and aren't trying to profit off of tourists. I think the culture would be cool.
Do you expect it to be much different than the United States culture, or what do you expect it? What would you expect it to be like?
I don't really know what I expect it to be like. I just think it would be interesting to go.
Good job. You're not setting expectations. You're ready to
Yeah.
go there.
Yeah.
Okay. So going to Egypt, what would you say currently is the coolest place that you've ever been, or there's something the coolest thing that you've ever seen? I guess.
The coolest thing that I've ever seen.
Yeah, like a destination place or a vacation or anything like that.
I don't know that one necessarily comes to mind.
Okay.
I would say the coolest thing that I've ever seen is probably Saturn when I was looking through my telescope.
Okay.
But like destination, I don't really have a one that sticks out.
Okay. And then I guess lastly, when you think about owning or having a home or a place to live, like, do you have an idea of what your dream home looks like, or could it be a double wide trailer, or like what do you have any aspirations for that?
I don't know. I don't think I really have a dream home or anything like that. I mean, I could be satisfied living in like just a small house out in the woods. I don't really have a preference. I mean, I would have a preference over one or another, but I guess a dream home is not something I'm necessarily craving.
Okay. And when it comes to on a daily basis, if you were to think about the potential inside you and your wisdom, your intellect, your personality, your gifts, what how I guess, how do you perceive that? Are you always trying to reach like your ultimate potential? Do you ever worry that you're not using your potential, that you're not taking advantage of it? Like, what are your thoughts on how often you think about those types of things?
I don't think that I would say that I think about them somewhat, but I don't know. When I think of my full potential, I don't necessarily think of it in a financial way, I guess. I don't know. I know that I could be making a lot more money. I know that I have the capability of doing a lot, but it's the question of, do I want to dedicate all this time and energy into that and give up other things that I would lose out on?
And what if you take away financial potential and you talk about uh, physical potential, just personally, what you could possibly do? What would that potential look like to you that you're looking to progress on or try to make the most of?
I would say interacting with people is something that definitely, I'm definitely trying to get better at. And just, I mean, we've talked about it on here a lot of the times. It's just a little thing can make a giant difference in somebody's day. And I have
Mm.
the idea of that, and I know that it's true. It's just acting on it is a lot harder for me.
Acting on it is a lot harder for you.
Yeah.
Is that because you have a fear of rejection or how it would
Mm,
be perceived?
I don't know. It's just maybe not knowing how to jump into starting a conversation. And
Yeah.
yeah, I guess.
I remember you talking about the one experience where you were out working and there was a group of, I think maybe it was an old friend who did some landscaping or something like that.
Yeah.
And you thought about it a number of times, like, I wonder if he ever needs help. Like,
Right.
I'd be cool to do that. And it
Right.
was almost like this fear of being able to converse back and forth.
Right.
They're having just a conversation, period.
Yeah.
Almost. And I grew up almost with, it's like I don't want to bother anybody was more so the point. And so maybe I came off as more stuck up, but I felt like it was more shy because I liked talking to people, but I just didn't because I
Mm-hmm.
just didn't feel like it was the right thing to do. And now that I've grown older, I do feel like communication is the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't, you can over communicate by doing too much, but if you've never talked to someone before, just saying hi or introducing yourself and asking a few questions
Mm-hmm.
is never over communicating. And
Right.
in those terms, I think it's better to over communicate and introduce yourself to a lot of people than it is to under communicate and not talk to anybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and then when I was thinking about this podcast and preparing for like socioeconomic status and what that looked like, you know, I was I was thinking a lot about like our grandparents, right? So, Grandpa Abs, it sounded like he like never. I remember him saying like I never had a pot to piss in, and he grew up with like seven. There were seven kids,
Mm-hmm.
and supposedly they were poor. And you know, I don't know if that ever really hit me to completely comprehend what it meant to be poor because I've never been poor. And so it
Right.
was just like, it's almost like a story that you hear. It's like, oh, okay, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you were poor, just like dad walked 8 miles to school
Mm-hmm.
uphill both ways in the snow. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Right.
those old fables and stuff like that. But like, to sit back and actualize, and if that was actually true, to realize like how difficult of a life it would be to go through and the amount of possible stress, trauma, anxiety that
Mm-hmm.
people would have is just, it's, to me, when I started thinking about that, it was really difficult to fathom, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah.
And like we had a grandma that was in Chippewa, Indiana. I think at one point, I don't know, maybe she wasn't Mennonite, but I think some of her family was. And so just thinking about all the societal norms that were inside of that, and her getting married outside of that, and then what that looked like and how that affected her personally. Like, every person that we come across has done difficult stuff in their life. They've had some hardships. They've had some difficult things to go through. And now more than ever, we have an opportunity to be able to share all those things with the world and share our stories. And it's just like, wow, like I wished, that I would have been able to hear their stories, to be able to hear like what it was like what happened, like
Yeah.
what was it like growing up? Like, what are some of your stories that you had,
Yeah. That's something that I think about a lot too. Is just kind of wishing I knew where we come from a little bit more and kind of asking those questions and just getting to know more because they would have been happy to share it, but I just never asked and I don't know. Yeah, I think about that quite a bit.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if I just wasn't in tune to wanting to know, if it wasn't a desire to learn, or if maybe they just didn't want to share that much, because I feel like even with our mom, that we have a lot of stuff to learn about her, but I don't know how willing people are to sometimes share their stories, if there's pain associated with it, if there's hurt or whatever it might be. And so, sometimes I think you can feel very guilty by asking questions, just like we're talking about with the general public, because you don't want to bother someone, or you don't want to bring up hard questions and talk about pain.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So as I was thinking about that, it brought me to the idea of looking at people's parents and looking at their generation, and that's what it is, generational wealth, right? So our grandfather was an employee, and then they became entrepreneurs, and then our parents were employees, and now we've all become employees. And I was thinking about that concept, and as I looked at some of my friends, it was like their parents were white collar workers. They went to college to become white collar workers, and then I saw all their children, and there was a huge importance put on college education, where in our family there wasn't as large of importance to be put on a college education. Like, it just didn't seem like it was very valuable. And now as I look back at those friends and their families, and the parents that went to college and then the kids that went to college, they're now up to that status and that socioeconomic position that their parents were. And that's something that people who are blue collar, they go to high school, they get out of work, they go to the factory, they work their job, and they just continue on in that step. Like, so if you were to think about your friends, do you have any friends where their parents didn't go to college, but they did go to college, that you can think of?
I don't really know my friend's parents all that well, but
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. And I guess when I think about most of the people in high school, I knew most of their parents, and most of them, a large majority of them went to school. It was very clear that they went to college and went to school, and those that didn't, again, it was very clear. And inside of Sturgis, you could really look at their positions, at the parents' positions. Like, if they were in leadership positions, almost all of them went to college. If they were employees, they didn't. Most people who went to college graduate and are able to seek a higher position, or they have that desire to take a higher position, where most people who didn't, they start off as employees, and maybe they can work up in the system of that first job that they worked. Most times not. And so that was just something that was interesting to me as I was thinking about this. And another thing me and you have discussed, I think you enjoy manual labor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wouldn't say that I don't, but I don't enjoy the amount of energy that it takes to be able to get stuff done and to be able to make the money. So I much prefer using mental energy and my mind to be able to create wealth. And I think another aspect of this that I've looked at is that in most general labor jobs, you're working in a factory, you're working for a company inside this building, right? That has four walls. And each and every day you're going around and you're meeting other people that are horizontally on the same plane as you. So you guys are all working together. You're all getting the same wages, very, very similar. You're all interacting with each other. And so the things that you're hearing, the things that you're learning, that's not going to be a huge progression where you're going to be able to go up. Like you're not going to go to college and then you're going to go get your master's and you're going to go get your PhD. Like you're hearing the same things. So there's not really that good of a chance that you're going to be able to learn a lot of things and intellectually, maybe even emotionally, psychologically, be able to challenge yourself and improve. Uh, Also with the connections, like so. Yeah, let's say you become a good employee, right? And so you're working really, really hard and you keep working. Really, the only opportunity that you're going to have to improve your financial status and your job is inside that company. It's if one of the people who are currently above you recognizes that and then they decide, hey Jake, I'm going to pull you and we're going to bring you up here now and give you this opportunity. One of the reasons that I've always really enjoyed sales and being able to go out and be out and about is that I get to meet new people every single day. I get to speak differently. I get to hear other people speak. I get to hear how they speak differently, how they speak professionally, what their words sound like, maybe the things that they've been, the places that they've gone. I get to hear interesting concepts. Maybe these are things that I would like to do. There's so many more options of what I hear and also more connections. And so I'm presenting myself to a much broader audience that isn't just here in my little business to where they're going to keep me in there and to where I'm going to have many, many opportunities. And I look at all the jobs that I've had in terms of successful jobs that have been high paying jobs. It's been because of connections that I've made through some type of an event, whether it was at work or whether it was at a gym. Again, a gym is a chance to where people are going, they're working on themselves, they're trying to better themselves, and they're in a different mindset. And those are types of people where you can connect, that people that are into self-improvement, whether it's in a job. I think a church is another large area for that, that even if maybe you're a blue collar worker, you can connect with other white collar workers, entrepreneurs, professionals, and if you're continuing to improve yourself and work on yourself, you can leap those bounds and create more opportunity for yourself and who you connect with, who your friend group is, and how your mind can change.
I guess I don't necessarily agree with that way of thinking.
Okay, in terms of what?
I don't know. It almost sounds like you're making an argument for blue collar is it's kind of there's no progression. Not that there's no progression, but just there's less potential for growth, and that white collar is there's more potential for growth because of the vast amounts of people that you meet and you run into and you build your networking basically. But it's just all dependent on, I mean, if you're going to work in a factory, then yeah, you're going to run into other employees and you're going to work in the same building and see the same people every day. Yeah, that's true. However, if you work in, for example, if you work in construction, I am just like a low level person. I had no skills going in, anything like that. And I'm not only running into people that are the same as me. Most of the people that I run into have their own businesses. So if I wanted to, running into them on the job site, I could always pick their brain and ask them questions and how they did this and how they did that and what is it like owning a business and what are all the hoops that you have to jump through and going in. And those connections are very valuable if you take that step and actually take advantage of them. And I'm sure white collar is the same type of thing. And I don't know, it's just, I think it's all very perspective based. It's not so black and white. And I don't know. There wasn't really a stress for us to go into college, as you were saying, but I don't really align in the camp that with the people that think college is necessary for like I don't think your odds of being more or less successful are dependent on college. I think it's all based on your mindset. I think we live in a world today that is so you can take advantage of so many different things that it's not dependent on college. It's really not dependent on your parents' connections. You could be basically a nobody and I don't know, just go out into the world and meet people and network yourself that way. And there's so many things that you can do, but I don't think for me the idea of college just doesn't sit right with me. I think more more likely than not it's I don't know, college seems like a scam to me.
And I'm generalizing these terms, but when I think of college, for example, coming from a small town in Sturgis, going to a bigger college, you're going to have an opportunity to meet so many more different people with different minds and different ideas and different thought processes than you're ever going to meet in a small town like Sturgis, to where a lot of the culture is the exact same. So what I'm also talking about is the ability to be able to expand your mind and create more opportunities this way. And yeah, you're right with the construction aspect. I would say that that's a unique situation into where you're a blue collar worker and you're able to be around some of the people that are paying. I think that was the same for me at the golf course. Is that yeah, I was a very blue collar worker, but I was the one giving the golf clubs to the millionaires and the billionaires and being able to connect with them. So I had an opportunity to connect in a way that other white collar people probably never would have. What I'm saying is that just like going to the baseball game, right? If you're at a college baseball game, you're not going to see as many good players as you would at a professional baseball game. Or if you go to a high-end private golf course and you're a member there, you're going to be around much wealthier people than if you go to a public golf course and you're just a member there. So the opportunity to who you surround yourself with is a much greater opportunity as you take these routes and ideas that I'm expressing. It's just essentially increasing your odds of who you present yourself to, because one of the things that I've noticed is that as you get in higher classes and be around wealthier people, they seem to be a lot more giving and a lot less competitive when it comes to their nature of how they surround themselves with. And, maybe that's because I live in such a big city down here, like Miami, but it seems like when people are in a specific socioeconomic status, and there's a lot of them, they're all competing with each other. Where when you get up and above that, I'm not saying that the millionaires and the wealthier people aren't competing, but it seems like there's more. Um, I don't know, when you have just the conversation, brainstorming, there's more brainstorming that comes from opportunities and thinking about ideas as opposed to, it seems like, again, I'm saying seems. And it may not necessarily be that way, but oftentimes when I hear people that are blue collar workers, they're always wanting to talk about other people versus ideas and personal improvement type thoughts, those types of things. It's always about like, well, let's tell a story about this over here, or what about that person or this, instead of like, have you ever thought about this? And I think sometimes that has to do with intelligence. And I think I personally believe that college is a big influence of always trying to progress with learning. I would say it's really difficult to just have that desire for learning. I would say me and you are very unique in that we went to college, but we still have a strong love and desire for learning. And I think that that's something in a religious concept where people who are religious, they they seem to have that to do retrospection and to continue and to improve. So maybe it's not just based on a college education or a socioeconomic status. There's a lot of factors that go into it, but there are certain things that I think help to work towards that type of progress.
Yeah, I agree with some of the things that you were saying.
Yeah.
I guess I
What
don't.
are the things that you don't agree with?
I don't know. Your the mindset of once you get to that higher class above the other classes, the competition goes down and the willingness to give. And I think that's very general, a big generalization. And I don't know. My mindset is I don't necessarily want to associate with those people. Not saying that those people aren't good people, but kind of my mindset is take the billionaires of the world. I I would love to get a conversation with them. I don't know that I would necessarily want to be like them. Because in my mind, in order to truly be a billionaire, you have to take advantage of somebody. There's no getting around that. I think
Why do you say that?
I I don't see any way of getting around it. If the way I look at it is the billionaires really to get to that level is just kind of having the mindset based off of profit margin and kind of the same idea as these big corporations have a they have an obligation to the stockholders to make the company the most profitable it could possibly be because the stockholders are putting in money for this big corporation to be the best company it could possibly be. Okay, well, how do we cut costs, raise profits? Somebody is going to get taken advantage of in that scenario.
Well, sometimes they could do by having intellectual property or some type of technology that is superior to everybody else.
It could, but I don't know. I see it as oftentimes it doesn't.
Do you think that there are any good billionaires out there who haven't ever taken advantage of people?
I don't think it's possible. I I'm not saying they are doing it intentionally. Okay, take for instance Apple and making an iPhone. Okay, you make these iPhones and they're not it's a big topic that Joe Rogan talks about all the time and it's like, okay, well where are you getting your materials from to make all these phones? Like are you ethically sourcing these phones? Like the people that your company is the companies that your company is paying to make sure you get those materials and going into the mines and everything like that. It's like you're going to third world countries where people are basically working in slavery and that is going up the chain to Apple. And I'm not saying that, I don't know. I would assume they know that is where it's being sourced from because how could you not know? But I don't think you get an Apple otherwise, if that makes sense.
Okay. And I think this is the difficulty that we're going to have a really difficult time trying to prove is being able to prove that there's a billionaire that has, never tried to take advantage of someone. However, there's people that are very, 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 very wealthy that have probably accumulated hundreds of millions of dollars that I do believe haven't done that. Would you agree with that?
I could see it. Then again, I don't. That this is just my mindset of these people. I don't know any people. It's just I know that there
Okay,
are people
right.
like that, and my mindset is to get to that level and be that focused on, like, to me, the idea of being a billionaire, it's like, why? It to me it does not make sense.
Right. I don't understand why someone would choose to try to progress to that level, like
Right.
just for fun, that would be their main goal in life. The
Right.
main reason I asked that last question because I can think of like a professional athlete, like let's say Tiger Woods or Michael
Right.
Jordan.
That is very different, I think.
Right, but they've still accumulated a very large
That's true.
amount of wealth, and they haven't taken advantage of people. Like maybe they've gotten endorsements from companies that have taken advantage of people. But this is how I look at wealth, and it's not so much that I want it to be able to accumulate it, but I would like to be able to have stability in my own life, to choose whatever I want to do, to go wherever I want, and to be able to help other really good people around me and surrounding people around me. And so that's why, for me, accumulating a large amount of wealth is really, really important because there's a lot of really, really good people out there that may not have the the wherewithal or the ability to be able to do that. And maybe it's wrong of me for have a desire to help them, or maybe it's wrong for me for my to want to be able to have kids and just be able to share things with them, vacations, and see parts of the world that I've never got to see, and do those types of things. And I don't see any opportunity to be able to do that other than by having a large amount of wealth.
Right. I think I think wealth is a different thing than dedicating your life to being wealthy.
Okay, how so?
When I say dedicating your life to being wealthy, it's kind of your main goal in life. Whereas I feel your main goal is to be wealthy because it would allow you freedom of time, freedom of location, the ability to raise a family, not have to worry about any of that. Whereas people who dedicate their life to being wealthy, they want to be wealthy and live that extravagant lifestyle and maybe not necessarily be benevolent with it, but to just have that money. And maybe greed plays a role in that along the way.
I agree with you in the goals of what they will do with the wealth, but I will say this is that mindset that it takes to be able to try to accumulate those things is very similar between mine and what I try to do and them, is that you almost always have to be focused on these things and always trying to be perfecting things and always trying to learn and be better tomorrow than you were today. So it's that same amount. And I think some people, this may seem very, very stressful. To me, it's not as stressful because I enjoy doing it. I enjoy learning. I always want to progress. And like, I don't like being stagnant. Like, it's just not something I enjoy. I'm always like moving and trying new things and moving on. Okay, what's next? Okay, what's next?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I think maybe some people be like, well, it's because you're going for wealth. It's like, no, it's just it's like that athletic mindset and types inside of me. It's like, okay, I did this well. I want to get better. I want to keep getting better. I want to keep getting better. I want to be better. And I think
Mm-hmm.
some of it has to do with maybe the strict religious mindset that I previously had of how strict you were to the Bible and not sinning and those types of things, and those all kind of work towards each other to be able to create this ultimate perfectionist, which I do have tendencies of being way so more than you. And I think sometimes that's where me and you, it can be really difficult to try to understand each other. I probably can be very, very overbearing to you and how I seem to live my life, and how you live your life can be very, very maybe lackadaisical to me, to where I was like, oh dude, I can't do that, I got to be doing this. Like it would be really difficult for me to you to be like hanging out on a daily basis, because we would just be too much for each other. Like
Mm-hmm.
I would be way overbearing, and you would be way laid back. I'd be like, you want to go do this? I mean, I remember as a kid, be like, you want to go do this? What do you want to go do now? What do you want to go do now? What about now? What about now? And you're just like, shut up, like leave me the hell alone. You know what I mean? I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, dude, do you ever want to go do anything? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember.
And our personalities just, uh,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm highly extroverted. I would say you're more introverted, and it's just sometimes it can be difficult.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with that. I remember growing up and realizing that we were very different. I think I don't know, I've made it something that I try to enjoy just the little things, and I don't know. I don't need to be doing something all the time. Sometimes I've gotten to the point where I just like, a big thing for me lately is just like looking at like birds and squirrels and turtles and stuff. Like I'm just fascinated by just like little things. Like I like going to the park and just kind of watching birds and how they interact with each other, and just kind of not taking that for granted, because all of the times that I would just, I don't know, just walk by and it's like, oh yeah, that's a bird, but I don't know, just looking at them and kind of admiring all of the little things. That's something that I've been working on a lot.
And that's interesting, because that's something that I really, really admire about you, is that you have the ability to just to slow down and not just be like so fast paced, like, oh, okay, where are we going to eat tonight? What do you want to go do? Like, if it's a vacation, like when you came down here, I remember asking you, hey, like, I want this vacation to be enjoyable for you, and I want you to share what it is you want to do. If some days that means just like hanging around, laying out, I understand. Because for me, if you were to ask me that, I'd be like, okay, well, I want to go do this, and then I want to do this, and I want to go do this, and I want to go do this, and I want to go do this. And it's like, I know previously when you came down for vacations, I felt pressured to like do everything to show you guys this great place, because that's what Chad enjoys and I like. But I started realizing that that may not be what you like, and I'm completely content if that's what it is. I want you guys to like this place, because I think there's a lot of cool things, but I also want to be able to make sure you enjoy your stay here. And so it had to do with me, like, just, I would say having healthy expectations and creating healthy communications, so I would have a good understanding of what that looked like.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. 'Cause I mean, you don't really understand. I mean, as a kid, you don't really understand if you are kind of how you were, and having to do something and be active all the time and just on to the next thing, on to the next thing. As a kid, you don't really understand that not everybody's like that. And just the ability to kind of talk about it and understand, that's a huge part, I think.
Right. Like, I can already tell you that if we would switch careers, like if you came and did what I did for a week and I had to go do what you did for a week, I don't think either one of us would be happy.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I would say that's probably accurate.
And what's awesome is that that's okay, and that like the way that we choose to live our lives. And what I just enjoy is having this healthy discussion, because it helps me learn more about the way other people think, and to not be so pressuring or overbearing to those types of people. But if there are people out there like me, then it's okay to want to have that desire to go up in a socioeconomic status. It's okay to go up and to have that desire for success, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, because I feel like I'd previously been judged for, having those desires of wanting to always build something and go and go, and okay, what's next? Like, okay, now I want to go do this, and now I want to go do this. And it's just like, it can be very overwhelming for certain personality types. And I feel bad to those that have had to be part of that and maybe haven't enjoyed it as much.
Yeah.
Because I think as I look back at maybe like you as a kid and like playing baseball, like I just pushed really, really hard because it was like, hey, like you want to do this, you want to be good, well, let's go do this, and that's how I kind of push myself today. It's like it's what I expect out of myself, and so I just figure, well, if Jake wants to be the ultimate machine just like me, then this is what it will take to be able to do that. So I just try to share the cookbook that I have to be able to help others if that's what they choose to be able to do.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, if somebody wanted to be a professional baseball player, there's no other way around it. There's not really a shortcut you can take other than going out and doing it. You can't just read a book and understand it that way. That's not how it works.
No, I will say this is that I took practice to a deep extreme though, and something I didn't really understand was that it's not the amount of repetitions that you make, it's the amount of good, I would say, focused repetitions to where you're actually trying to work on some specific thing than just going out there and making repetitions and swinging and hitting golf balls or hitting baseballs. And that was, I'd say, something that always probably stunted me, that it was like, okay, if I'm just out here I'm going to be out here, I'm going to putt for 6 hours, and that's what it's going to be. It's going to be 6 hours. Like, that's what you're doing, Chad.
Right.
So my body got used to just forcing it and being so disciplined to be able to force my mind to do something, to where it was just like I needed to go out there and just focus on, hey, Chad, you're going to hit 100 good putts just like this, and you're going to focus on this, and that's what it's going to be, instead of like, okay, we're going to just take up this almost unbelievable, like unattainable amount of time putting, where it's just like, this is way too much time. This is so unattainable, where it's unrealistic, and you're out here just doing it, and there's no way that you're going to make good putts, and you're going to take on bad habits, and you're forcing yourself, you're just restricting yourself so much to where the learning isn't going to be that high quality. And I would say that's where I just took it too much, because I thought I could just overwork absolutely everything. And I thought that in just about everything of life, that if I will overwork anybody and everybody. And to some extent it was good, because the amount of confidence that comes from knowing that you can outlast people in just about anything is quite impressive. Because if you have that mindset, but the better mindset is to realize I don't have to outlast everybody in going out and practicing. What I have to do is have confidence and just know what I'm doing, like doing it right. That's all I have to really know.
Yeah. Because even if you go out and you putt all those hours, it comes down to it's like, how many of those putts actually benefited you? How many of those putts didn't really have any effect? And how many of those putts negatively affected you because you were doing it with bad form or something like that? It's like if you go to the gym and if you start squatting and you put too much weight on, and you have bad form, and your legs aren't developed enough to lift however much weight you put on, and you get hurt, it's like, okay, well, that was stupid. It's like you have to do what is right for you, and how are you going to develop. It can't be the most amount of repetitions. It has to be the most amount of repetitions possible, with proper form, with proper intention. There has to be a purpose.
And you said it perfectly. Intention, proper intention, focused intention. Because just like, yeah, when I was putting, you know how many times I was like, I hate being out here. This sucks. This is terrible. It's like,
Yeah.
why are you forcing yourself to be out here then, you idiot? Oh, because this is what it takes. Like, this is what Tiger Woods says. This is what Michael Jordan says. This is like, God, dude. And like, yeah. How many hours did you practice? Well, I practiced 8 hours. And it was just like, I remember just telling people, yeah, I was out there for 8 hours and 8 hours and 8 hours. Just like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, but like, probably 3 hours of it was good, and the other
Yeah.
5 were just terrible because I was so pissed and I was so hot and I was
Yeah.
malnourished and I wasn't getting proper nutrition. And I was tired. And I was just like, oh, so unfocused. Uh,
Yeah.
but one of the things that I was thinking about with this podcast is just like, I guess when it comes to learning and when it comes to setting yourself up for success, how we're raised, the things that we're taught, just that there are other avenues or other people do them differently. And this is something that I was thinking of, when you think of people who had went to college or maybe other families, the amount of the level of importance that they put on reading and studying and those types of things, I think is a lot more. And as you go from a lower level class to a higher level class, I would have to say that the amount of time that people spend being entertained, consuming social media, TVs, music, I would say that it drastically changes to where they're learning more. I
Hmm.
would assume that people who are wealthier, who do better, who are always learning and always progressing, that they're spending more time in the car listening to podcasts, listening to books than they are listening to music.
Right.
And I just think it would be really cool if there were certain studies that were done on those types of things, because if you grow up in a family where music is, the only thing that you listen to in the car, and it's just about, yeah, singing along, it's like, yeah, but what are you learning? How are you progressing? And maybe life isn't always all about progressing, but it seems like there may need to be a higher importance on it than what we're taught here, possibly in the US or just a few select families.
Yeah. That makes sense to me. I can agree with that.
And I think, when it comes to like your proper nutrition too, I think, man, ever since I've removed sugar from my diet, just my mental focus and my mental clarity and those types of things, just how much better I feel and how much more alert I am and my desire to learn, instead of just like, I'm so tired and it's like, okay, all I want to do is watch YouTube shorts.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
it's amazing because I'm tired. I just want to consume. I don't have
Hmm.
the audacity to learn. It's just too much.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think so many people fall down that hole, and it's very consuming. Not just the action of it, but it eats away your time and you don't really realize it, and then it's just kind of it's very cyclical.
And I was just sharing with you before the podcast that for the last 6 months, I've been working 6 days a week, and it's just been so excruciating. And with the podcast, I didn't feel like I had much to offer because it was just like when I wasn't at work, it was just like all I wanted to do was relax and just to enjoy myself a little bit. And now it's like, okay, I have 2 days off. And it's like, I'm starting to read again. And once I start reading or once I have more time, I'm starting to go out and see what I like more. And I'm looking for new opportunities where it's just like when I'm working and you only have one free day, it's like, okay, I got to do this. Or, oh, what can I go do that I really, really enjoy today, instead of realizing and going out and finding that there are things that I really like that I forgot about, or the new things that I might want to go do. And I have the time to go try those things.
Hmm.
And it's just like, holy cow, like a whole new world opened up with just
Hmm.
having one more day to not have to work.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's a huge change.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think it's interesting, as kids, we grew up in a family that was very, I would say, introverted. So my dad never really went out and were out and about and be around people. And so for me, sometimes I catch myself doing that, just sitting down, and it's easy to, get distracted with the phone and watching even YouTube learning, to where it's like, I want to go out and meet more people. I was like, oh, okay, like I can actually do that. I just have to put myself out there and go do
Hmm.
it. It doesn't feel natural, maybe because how we're raised. Maybe there were people in other family who it does feel natural to go out and be about all day long,
Hmm.
and that feels like overwhelming to me. But it's like, wow, like I can actually go out there and find those communities, and if they're not here, then go try another place and keep trying another place. In Sturgis, Michigan, it's not as easy because you're probably going to run out of places.
Yeah.
But down here in a big city like this, it's like, okay, I'll just drive 10 more minutes today.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be around another 100,000 people. Like,
Yeah.
it's that diverse, and there's that many more opportunities to just see more people who I might resonate with.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, those were my thoughts on socioeconomic status and just, I don't know, desire to change. And yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any more thoughts?
Not that I can think of. No, I don't really have anything
No?
else.
All right. Well, folks, we hope you enjoyed this episode. And that's all I got left up in this dome.
All right. See you, everybody.